Bob, what's good, bro? Dana. Jay, what's good? Dana,
All right. How you doing?
what's good, brother? How are you?
I'm great, man. Can you hear me good?
I can hear you all right. I can hear you good.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
clear.
Okay, good.
How you doing? How's the family? How's everything?
Everybody doing good, man. Everybody doing good so far, man. So that's a blessing right now. How's the family with you?
I can't complain, bro. Just had a
Good.
baby, 8 months.
Congratulations,
Going.
brother.
Thank you. Going
Mm-hmm.
crazy. know.
Yeah, yeah. This time is
Yeah,
difficult, man, so I understand.
yeah. Scared, bro. Just
Mm-hmm.
keeping them away. We
Yeah.
could get to it. Get to it.
Okay.
Let's get to it, brother.
Yeah. Yes,
Hold you
sir.
up too much. At what age did you start hooping?
Hooping serious or just recreational or whatever?
Both.
Okay. Well, so I'm from New York here, so I'm from Harlem. So I would say I started playing basketball when I was a little kid, around the second or third grade in St. Charles, Barmel Catholic School over there on 141st and 8th Avenue. And I think it was kind of like a known thing. My father was a basketball player in the city, so it was kind of like, well, let's see what happens with his youngster and see if he develops that same love for the game. And from there, when I had the ball in my hand, it just felt natural. So to be honest, I started playing then and started developing throughout the years and took it seriously around my eighth grade year in elementary school. And that's when I really started to feel like I started putting things together going into high school.
And going into high school, were you already exposed to the AAU experience, or were you just like you said, recreational, playing tournaments, hooping,
Hmm.
working out? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was just exposed to the recreational side of things. And I started getting a little taste of school. So I left New York in the middle of my sixth grade year. I'm sorry, in the seventh grade year. Well, the beginning of my seventh grade year to go out to Chicago. So
Okay.
I went out to Chicago, moved out there. So I was in there from my seventh grade year to my eighth grade, beginning of the eighth grade year. That's when I really started to take basketball serious because out there it was a whole different level. Like
Okay.
where I was at and who was I exposed to at that time. I played for a coach who was a kind of a legend in Chicago, and his sons were both on the team. So both one of those guys was like 6'5", 6'6" at the time, dunking everything. And
Yeah.
his other son was my age, so we were both the youngsters on the team playing a lot of minutes, and so it was good for me to kind of get exposed to that, and starting to see someone starting to believe in what I could do and telling me how I need to take the game serious. And that summer, before I entered my eighth grade year, was when I really started working out and doing my own thing kind of before I really had a coach instructing me.
Yeah.
And my eighth grade year, I transferred back into New York and finished up my eighth grade year at Our Lady of Lords right there on 143rd and Convent. And
Okay.
yeah, so I got a really good taste of basketball in the city, especially
Yeah.
on the Catholic school side. Think about it. At the time, you had Mark Carmel was a dominant team. They had a bunch of guys on that team. Bernard Barrow, Jamal Fields, Kit Wanarima. I mean, their team was stacked with guys, and
Yeah.
our guys, we held our own against them. So we had our share of guys too. So and I think that kind of put me in a position to have schools take a real serious look at me. And at the time, I played for coach by the name of Mr. White, James White, and he kind of like directed me to look at other schools because Rice was on three of our guys. They was looking at some of our guys, and he was like, with that situation at Rice, you want to go to somewhere you're going to be able to play right away and or have an opportunity to develop to play. So it was public school, and I had a good mentor at that time that I could say a mentor, but more like a big brother cousin, Timmy Headache Gittins. You know what I mean? So he put me on his wing, and he was in Manhattan Center. His people's Thomas Coleman, my guy Dwayne Jordan, those guys. We was all playing that summer, and he was like, "Listen, you need to come to Manhattan Center, man. Join what we're trying to do." And so from there, I wrote the Manhattan Center, and then it was all she wrote from there.
That's what's up. So going into your freshman year of high school, how are you preparing yourself for this next step? Because now you're gonna play against the best kids in the city. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Every
Yeah,
day. Every
I,
day
I
you're playing somebody
I
in the
wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared. Listen, man, things came easy to me at times. Like basketball came easy, academics came easy. So dealing with an opportunity now to be in high school, big school that had a lot of a good population of different people, diverse field of people. So for me, I got lost quick. I'm in high school as a freshman looking up to the upperclassmen. I'm in school with Mace and Cam and my guy Rich Parker and all these guys here, and they're older, so they know the ropes. I'm
Yeah.
still learning, so I'm cutting classes just to chill it with them, this, that, and third, not thinking about anything. And
Okay.
I kind of started off my high school career terrible. I
That-
wasn't really focused. I could play ball, but at the same time, if you ain't taking care of your classwork, then now you're a liability. So I didn't even get a chance to play varsity that year. And
Okay.
and it was tough because at that time coming into high school, I was one of the top three freshmen coming in. And actually, guys were telling me, not even know anything about this, hoop school was big back in the day, and I was ranked in that hoop school book, and I didn't even know anything about none of that stuff. So once again, I wasn't prepared for high school. You know what I mean? Like I just knew it was another step to take in educational wise, getting me to the next level. But basketball, I kind of took it just like junior high school, where I always had good grades, so I didn't worry about academics and having struggles. So I wasn't seriously prepared for that. You know what I mean?
Got
And guys, the older guys, they did their best to try to keep me, grounded. But once again, I'm in a new school. People know who I am a little bit, so I'm getting some recognition. I'm not even playing, so I just fell into that hype a little bit and just got sidetracked.
Okay. And when did you realize that you got to get it together so that you can start taking this whole thing serious?
Best thing for me happened was, so I played my freshman year at JV, right? And
Okay.
I was one of the guys, one of the main guys there, leading scorer type. So guys was looking up to me, and but it wasn't one of those things because we had a good talented group of freshmen and sophomores, so we competed. You know what I mean? Like we were going at the sophomores that was on JV because we wanted their spots and they had opportunities, and those guys were trying to keep us in check. So but I was one of the guys that was looked at. So talking to the athletic director throughout the season and the head coach at varsity during that time was Charles Jackson. Listen, Dana, you got to get your stuff together because once again, I wasn't focused. But I think it really hit me going into my sophomore year when I was told I couldn't try out for varsity.
Absolutely.
And I was sitting there in the varsity trials watching all these guys competing and playing while I'm sitting on the side in the stands looking, and I'm damn near ready to cry, man. I'm like, yo, are you serious, B? Like, I should be on this team right now, and I can't even try out because my grades were terrible, bro. Like, I got
Okay.
3 credits at the end of my freshman year. I was bugging.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I got lost, man. I was focused on the females and focused on all the wrong things, man. And then, that really turned my life around right there because at that point here, I started to focus down a little bit more on my books, and I had a assistant principal at the school, Miss Shineback, Ellen Shineback, who I loved to death. She was like my hands-on mother in the school, and which was everybody's like moms as well, because she took a liking to us and cared about us a lot. So,
Yeah.
she sat me down and helped me get my stuff together, and I knew at that point, finishing up my sophomore year, I was ready. So I got my academics together. I was eligible. I needed to pass this class in order to be eligible for that following year, so I was good. So after that, it was ready to get it going.
So in between your school, what are you doing
Hmm.
in the summers?
Oh well, so I started playing with the church. So
Okay.
I was a church kid. It was a bunch of us. So I like I said, I grew up in Harlem. I had a bunch of different blocks where I stayed on, and I stayed at and chilled at. So 146 in Convent. There was a bunch of us that was playing around the same age, high school and age level. So we all went over to Riverside to try out, and pretty much all of us made that team.
Okay.
So we were like that. We called ourselves kind of like the Revolution 5, because we had our own little block, a crew love that we'd go play at 15, 16, older guys for money, this, that, and third. And we had guys putting us up to play these guys. So, we found ourselves. So
Yeah.
To be honest, even though I didn't have the school stuff going on, I was still kind of getting things going on out in the streets a little bit that was keeping me grounded or keeping me ready, prepared. You know what I mean? So now it's just a matter of putting all that stuff together to actually get it done in the classroom and on a court where it mattered in high school. You know, so but I was playing AAU with them, and we traveled and you know, good teams, good competition, and you know, I still had to fight to get an opportunity because we had a stacked team. You know, we had stacked teams every year I played with the church. So, you know, I was one of the guys in rotation, but at the same time, you know, if you want to be a star, you got to really show out. And so it was more than just putting your name out there in the streets. You had to do it in high school where it mattered too. So that's why I said junior year was big for me, because that was the start of everything for me, you know.
That's when you got to play varsity for the first time.
About time. About time.
And by this point, I already know how you give it up. So you waiting for that. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, like for real, like I felt like it was kind of like a monkey off my back, because you know, everybody kind of labeled me as that guy that wasn't really focused. You know, had good talent but wasn't really serious about it. So they didn't know that I was going to be able to, you know, stay consistent or stay eligible. But once again, I knew that wasn't no problem for me, because academically, it wasn't really a matter of whether I could do the work. It was just a focus, you know. So once and I started seeing all these different people in the newspaper, and once I started to get a better idea of what this high school basketball is really about and how I need this in order to get me to the collegiate level, like that's when I really put things together. So once I started playing, I never had to worry about academics again. You know, I never had an issue with the classroom. And basketball, I was waiting. Like, I couldn't wait for that. So came in junior year, wasn't a starter off the rip, you know, but at the same time, I felt like I was a starter. So I didn't have no issues with competing for my spot. You know, it was just a matter of showing and proving, I guess. And, you know, I played with that chip on my shoulder. So I put that on instead of worrying about me missing the first 2 years of my career. I put that, listen, it's junior year, it's go time. So let's make it happen. And, you know, I came off the bench the first few games of the year and played really well, to the point that I felt like I forced my coach's hand to have to start me. And, you know, I started finishing up the rest of the season as a starter, and all city honors, all borough honors, second team. And, you know, like I said, for me, you know, at that year, I was just getting my feet wet. And so I was already accomplishing things. So that's why I knew, like, at this point now I know how serious this is. And now I know how to prepare myself even more for my senior year, because I'll be totally ready at that point, because I already understand the elements that I need to focus on in order to be better.
Now, in these days, high school basketball was serious.
Right.
PSL, Archdiocese, everybody had killers.
Right.
What were some of the teams that were like that when you was coming up in the PSAL? Because I think that the majority of the, you know, the big names come out of the city, come out of the Archdiocese, the Rices, the you know, the Hazes and all that. You know what I mean? So PSAL has always been known to have hitters. The problem, what I've noticed, is that in the PSAL, you have so much freedom in public school. You have more kids that stray off that could have been killers, but in the public school setting, it's harder to focus, like you realize. Where in the school setting, you miss a couple of days of school, they on your
ass.
You know what I mean?
Right. So
what was the PSAL like when you was coming up?
Oh man, it was like you said, heavy hitters, man. Like, you go from you seeing guys that are going Division I out of King, ML King. We had my guy Damian Daniels. We were the same age, but even before him, Kevin Morris. Another guy, Melshawn Scott, was my year. I mean, and I can even go back just from my freshman year with my team and what we had on that team. Cam, we had Tim, we had Rich Parker, we had Dwayne Jordan, Travis. He was a football player who was damn tough on that court. You know what I mean? So like, those teams were stacked. So Manhattan teams had, if A. Philip Randolph was going, Brandeis was still popping, King was relevant, George Washington was crazy. Like, so like I'll big up George Washington, because I mean, you think about my guy Ricardo Greer. You know, he was someone I looked up to just for how ferocious he was as a player, man. Like, it's straight animal, man. Like, he attacked everything 100%. And I've always respected that man for that, because he was one of those guys that I looked up to, you know, besides the guys in my high school. So, you know, George Washington was good with their team. They had Caesar, you know, Floyd and Ramon and a few other guys like that, Nelson. Nelson Pena. So like these guys, George Washington was tough. Watley was good. But our rival was Martin Luther King. Like it was Manhattan Center, Martin Luther King in Manhattan. Like those are the two teams that was fighting it out. So we battled. We put on some good shows. Like I can tell you, I remember junior year and senior year, our homecoming games versus King used to be packed. Like I felt like I was at the Garden. That's how packed it was. You know, you used to have people standing on the sides and foot bleachers filled out. You know, just and I'm talking about like stars coming to check out the games and stuff like that. Like I'm like, damn, man, like all for a high school game. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was serious, man. So it was serious. We had some really good battles with them, man. So, you know, and once again, I think guys at that time, you know, we took pride into knowing that we didn't have to go to Catholic school to get that recognition. We did what we needed to do and made noise in PSAL. So for us, it was always like PSAL versus Catholic school. Even though they might have better resources across the board, we felt like we had players that was just as good as those players, you know, and able to play. So whenever we had opportunities to do cross matches, we took them serious. And, you know, we played the LaSalles. They smacked us our junior year, I can't lie. And we had a better game with them my senior year, but, you know, they had talent. And Rice, we played a scrimmage against them my senior year, and we did well against them. So, you know, we felt like we were top one of the top teams in the city at PSAL, you know, which really we gave respect to everybody, but it's not like we looked up to anybody. It was always like us worried about us, you know.
Sure.
So that's how we was in Manhattan Center.
So getting through your junior year, how'd that go for you? Like once you got there, like statistically, how'd you adapt? Like what was it like for you as a ball player?
So you kind of said it. I was salivating for this opportunity to play, man. So I didn't really pay attention to my stats that junior year because I'll be honest, like my mentality was I wanted to dunk. You know, I wanted to dunk on someone. I wanted to get that excitement, you know, going for the game because I always played with that type of energy in high school. So in high school, I was a jumper, dunker, and I could shoot. You know, I could dribble, but I wasn't a ball handler like that. I wasn't creating. I was slashing, you know. So my whole thing was I'm getting to the basket. I'm trying to throw it on somebody, you know. So that's the way I played. So I would have games where I had 20-something, other games where I had 4 or 5, you know. So my average at the end of that year was around 11, 12 points. And that was good. I mean, for my first year, that was good, I guess. But once again, I wasn't focused on my average. You know, I was trying to win. And we came up short in the playoffs that year to Erasmus, and who actually ended up taking it that year, you know. So we were a little set about that because we felt like we could have played so much better, you know. But in that game, you know, I'm playing in my back in my hometown in Riverbank State Park. I had about 25 that game. You know, I was playing well. So my last game of junior year, you know, I felt like going into the off season, I knew things that I had to work on. So that way now I could be more than just a dunker and a shooter. I need to start knowing how to make plays because that team pressed us. And, you know, one of the leading scorers can't necessarily make good decisions off the dribble. Now he's like, well, you're a liability at times. So now I'm staying away from the ball. I had to learn how to be that guy that knew how to make plays off the bounce. And so that's what I worked on going into my senior year. And that helped me out a lot because that really helped me become a better player, but more made us more dynamic of a team, you know?
Yeah. One thing that I've always admired about you is how hard you go on both ends. Like
appreciate that.
You really give. When you played with me, when I've watched you play, like you go as hard on defense as you do on offense.
Appreciate that.
No doubt. Have you always approached the game that way, or did you realize how much more playing defense can bring you offensively as you got older?
So I would say, so I have like a blip in my career. So I'd say before injury, you know, when I was like a jumper dunker, you know, I played defense, but that's more so because, you know, when you grow up in the hood, you playing 21s, you playing outside park ball, you ain't trying to get off the court. You usually playing against somebody that don't give a damn about you, going at you hard. So you got to know how to man up and strap up because you don't want to be the one that costs your team a win or loss, you know. So I felt like I knew how to play D, but I didn't focus and take advantage of it like the way I could have because, you know, I played for steals. You know, I played for those type of highlights. But after I got hurt in college, going into college, that's when, you know, I was like, yo, now I got to reinvent myself. I got to become a little bit more grittier, more grimier, you know, because now I don't have that much athletic ability as I had compared to before I got hurt. So now it's like, how do I make up for what I lost? You know, so
Got
now it became a little bit more mental for me. And because of that, I learned how to become a more of a dog, you know, like I
yeah.
didn't need to score in order to play D. Like I was on it just because I knew like that would keep me on the court. You know, that'll give me opportunities that I want to be able to show what I could do on the offensive end, even though my offense had to work its way back to where it was before I got hurt, you know?
Got you.
Yeah.
So going into your senior year, what's your now? At this point, right?
Hmm.
You already realize like, yo, this ball can get me out. You know, I can take this another level higher and get out the hood. I can get this degree. I
Right.
gotta focus on this.
Right.
When does the college thing happen for you, as far as like the recruitment and
Hmm.
you looking into that, like
Hmm.
realizing how this is about to turn into a business and you're about to go to a school to play college basketball?
So going into my senior year, you know, that summer, that AAU team, like I told you, I played with the church. So our AAU team that we had, the top team was Ron Artest, Elton Brand, Rez
Okay.
Jesse, Eric Barkley, you know, my guy Sharif Fordham, you know, I know I'm missing a lot of names, but one of my teammates, my center, Aki Thomas, he just left Gauchos and came back over to the church. So
Okay.
like him and I was traveling and playing together, and you know his recruitment was picking up crazy. He had schools like Miami, Colorado, Manhattan College, all these other schools was on him, and I had like schools showing interest, you know, the MAC schools and stuff, but I don't think I had any offers.
Okay.
And you know, I had a coach tell me from the church this best thing that he told me, and it was a critique obviously, and I didn't necessarily like it, but at the same time I respected it. He told me like, listen, Dana, you're a tweener. You know, you're 6'3". You don't handle it well enough to play the two, and you're not strong enough to be able to be at the three. So you got to really work on your game in order for these coaches to recognize you, in order for us to be able to market you like the player that you want to be. You know, so from then that added more motivation, because anytime I got some criticism, like I felt like I took that and wore that into the next game or workout or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
you know, so I credit all of the little things that I was going through that summer in order to get me more prepared and more focused to come out and have a more consistent year my senior year. And that's what I did to get some offers, you know. So I had some MAC school offers, and you know, I wasn't a high level Division I player. Like I knew my lane at that point. You know, I like I told you, I played on an AAU team that had all these guys that were easily high Division I players, potential pro players. And I
Mhm.
knew that I wasn't consistently able to produce at that level that they were, but I was competing. So
Yeah.
now I understand, like, listen, at that point, they're there. I'm trying to get there. I got to continue to work to where they're at. And I was fine with that. So I didn't mind going through that experience, because that humbled me in the sense to know, like, no matter how good I think I am, I still got to work, because there's guys that I'm playing with right now that are easily better than me or at that level where I want to be, and they're the same age, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a good wake up call for me. And that kept me humble, but that also kept me around the people I needed to be around that summer. So besides playing the street ball stuff that I was doing, I was still getting a good taste of organized basketball through my AAU experience. And that's when I knew that, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z this right way, I'll get the schools that I want, or be at the level where I want to be to get that opportunity that I want to go, that I want to get to go Division I. And that's what I started to have come my way.
Okay. So how does the senior year go for you at center?
Mm. Great. I mean, you know, like I said, every big game I was there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but I wasn't impressed with the big game so much, because it was more about making sure you're consistent. So I was hyped even when we played teams that weren't as good as the best competition in the city. You know,
Yeah.
because now it's like, well, I'm standing out in those games as well as the big games. So now it's like, now all the things I talked to you about going into my senior year as far as being consistent, I'm
Yeah.
starting to put together more. So now my average is about 14, 15 points for the year. You know, it's unfortunate that we didn't make the run that we were supposed to make at the end of the year, because I think that we had a team that definitely could have competed for a championship in the city.
Gotcha.
But you know, we got upset the first round, and I think we just put too much in our heads during that time. And I know it's still bitter for us to talk about to this day. I still speak to guys about that, you know, but individually though, I had a really good year, and now I'm all city, first team, all borough. You know, got the recognition, the schools are on it, and it's just at this point here making sure I graduate on time, because I told you I messed up so much my first 2 years
Yeah.
in high school that now I had to play catch up. So I was at the end of that year, I was all set. Still playing Riverside a little bit, but now I'm getting a taste of what else is out there for me, because now other programs are looking at me like, listen, we could do this for you, we could do that for you, and so I had a hometown crew, St. Mark's, which later turned into Abyssinia.
Okay.
But St. Mark's coaches, Coach Lex, Coach Rick, Coach Steve, and those guys, they really took a liking to what I could do, and they wanted to help me out. So they had me all set up with going to prep school after that year, because I still had some work to do in order to graduate. So I
Right.
was going to either still stay in Manhattan Center, finish up, or leave to go to prep school to play and finish up that year, and now develop and get to that level where I want to go in order to take those offers that I had. And that's when the injury happened. Right at the point where I felt like everything was coming together, man. Like, we were playing in this preseason tournament at Riverbank.
Yeah.
I was playing with St. Mark's. We were playing against I forgot who we was playing at that time, but it was one of those type of games, man, a gritty game, and it was early in the game, and I'm scoring, I'm bringing the ball up the court, making plays, and unfortunately, one thing went the wrong way, and I got tripped up, and blew out my knee, man. Like that Sean Livingston injury that happened to him happened to me before it happened to him, and you know what I mean? Like that did some things for me. That mentally that shook me, but it also woke me up. So it brought something out of me that I didn't think I had before, which was that will, that toughness. So I had to really climb out from wherever I was at, because I thought it was over. The doctor's telling me that I won't possibly be playing ball again. I was like 98% nerve damage in my leg. I mean, I blew everything, Drew. Like ACL, PCL, MCL, LCL, all that stuff, dislocation, nerve damage. I mean, they told me I was damn near in a position where I almost had my leg amputated. You know what I mean?
Man.
So yeah, like that was, and I'm not doing the woe is me stuff, but
No,
the
no.
impact of that
That's what
injury,
it is.
yeah, that's what it was, man. So all that time, I mean, I was in the hospital for months, Drew. Like from the time I was supposed to go, like literally that night, that prep school came down and spoke, and was at that game in Riverbank. Spoke to my father early in the afternoon, and they were going to talk to me after the game, because I didn't even know they was there until the coaches told me after the fact. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So it's kind of like a surprise that they had to set up for me, because I was supposed to leave that next day, and I didn't even know all this. My father agreed to it as long as I was with it, which I was going to go. So, I guess it was one of those things that wasn't meant to happen for me,
Right.
and it was this other path. So I'm in the hospital sitting there for months trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And, I had coaches in my corner, Coach Kev, who also coached at St. Mark's, and he was there with me. So he supported me, and, he made sure he made a constant effort to come to the hospital to make sure I was good mentally, and phone calls from everybody, letters from classmates at high school and all. So I had that support that I needed to get through, because that was rough. That was a rough part for me, man.
Man.
So I got out the hospital, and now from that point on, it was all on the working to try to get back on the court, and that's how I went. It was slow progress, but eventually I got back on, and then I decided to go junior college, because now I remember I had a game playing the
Oh,
summer of. Go ahead.
hold
Sorry.
on. Ask you something.
Yep.
Knowing, right, how
hmm
athletic you were up until the point where you got hurt, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
As you're rehabbing,
hmm
are you telling yourself what you're gonna need to change, or are you waiting to see how it feels when you get
That's a
out
great
there?
question.
Because
hmm
that these kids get hurt,
Yep.
and they worry more about getting back to who they were when they
Right.
can learn. They got to think about a whole new aspect of the game and see if they can
hmm
even a shove. You feel me?
Right. Right.
So
Right. Right.
how are you approaching this before the junior college thing? It's like before you like rehab. Okay, we get the rehab in, right?
hmm
And I know what rehab is like. That shit
Yeah.
is no joke.
Brutal. Brutal.
You know what I mean?
Brutal.
So
hmm
you're getting the rehab part done. So
Yeah.
physically you're getting stronger, but are
hmm
you getting mentally stronger as well?
That didn't happen. Well, some aspects, yes, but that wake up call for me, in order to understand I need to change my game, happened when so that summer I was playing with my high school coach in some summer league in Elm Court Gym. And
Yeah.
Tom Konchkowski was supposed to come out to take a look at me because obviously the Division I schools wanted to know if I was able to bounce back from my injury and how good was I, you know. And I'll never forget this. And trust me, once again, this is an evaluation from a guy who I trusted. And he called it real. He was like, Dana, you got a long way to go to get back, you know. I'll pray for you. I hope it works for you, man, because, you know, you're a good kid, but you're definitely not at the level where you were before you got hurt. And, you know, and
after the injury.
After that game where I came, this was like my third game coming back from that injury. I was playing with a big ass.
How long were you out from the injury to back to basketball?
I rushed it. So I only missed about 6 months. You know what I mean? Before that was Drew, I was bugging. You know, like I told you, so mentally, so we talk about some things that made me stronger. I'm in the hospital. I'm seeing the guys that I graduated with playing on TV. Remember that I told you about the guy that I played the play for in Chicago? His son now, Sean Lampley, is in California and playing at Cal University. You know, now he's on TV and he's killing. And this is a guy that I grew up. So like all the guys that I felt like was my generation and my years, they on TV playing, and I'm sitting in the hospital trying to nurse an injury. So mentally, I was like, yo, once again, tapping back into my sophomore year in high school when I'm sitting on the side watching on the court guys that I should be playing with. I was doing the same thing, and I was like, at this point here, I gotta work. So my rehab went good, but I rushed it. You know, I got some flexibility back in my leg, not 100%, but enough for me to start trying to do more things, and I started strengthening quickly. So I didn't go through the rehab steps the way I probably should have to get full flexion back in my leg. But, you know, once again, I'm stubborn. So I'm seeing that. I'm like, I hear y'all, but I'm going double. So they telling me to do this, I'm doing more, you know, because I was like, yo, I want to get back. I got to get back. This is something that's in me. Like, I'm dying to play, you know. So I didn't waste no time. Like, once I came back, the doctor that actually performed the surgery was flown in from San Antonio Spurs. He was the San Antonio Spurs head doctor at that time, Dr. Jack Henry. And, you know, he talked about my whole rehab process, and he didn't think that I was going to probably be able to come back. But when he saw me that last time, he was like, listen, you know, you're probably going to end up having knee replacement surgery at an early age, this, that, and the third. But right now, you know, your leg looks strong enough to be able to handle the things that you need to handle. I prescribed you to play with this brace and, you know, to prevent any further injury, and try not to play on concrete and all that stuff outside because that's going to hurt, blah, 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 blah. I hear, want. I'm good to play. Okay, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, that's what it was. So it only took me 6 months. And that was an accomplishment for me mentally. But nowadays, looking at that, I bugged out. I should have took my time to really develop to get back to where I could have been, which would have been much more fluid in my game, you know?
Gotcha.
So I came back and I was playing, and like I said, Tom Konchkowski, he was at this event to basically take a look at myself and a few other guys and evaluate us to see where we was at. So he told me what he told me at the end of that game, and that was it for me. That was perfect, you know, because I was like, that's the fuel. So, and I know Tom's not being malicious with his words. He's being real, which I always appreciated. So to this day, I see, you know, we always show love because I've always appreciated him being real, because everybody says if Tom don't know you, then you ain't nobody in the city, you know? Tom knew me, you know, he knew what it was. And, you know, so I appreciate that. And those words motivated me to do what I did next, which was, like I said, and to JUCO with a mindset like, listen, now I got to change my game. Now it's time for me to show that I know that I could do more than just be a dunker and be an athletic player. Like, I have more to my game. And that's when it really hit me at that point. Like, okay, now it's go time. Start working on the other things that you need to work on in order to develop more around the game.
So when you tell yourself, okay, I'm going the JUCO route, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is the steps you're taking to choose the right situation for you and the ball player you are now? So
I didn't have the right steps that I was taking. I just knew I was working out, training. And my father was connected, and he you know, after his playing career, he was involved in SABOA of referees, officials, and he was overseeing the referees. So he was connected with those guys, and one of the referees that he was a longtime friend with, the guy Ray J, I love that man because he actually put me in contact with Monroe. Ray J refereed Monroe college games, and his son Ray J. Ray J's like a family friend. His son DJ Alamo,
Okay.
that's his son, and his son grew up playing with my brother. So like that's family. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
he
sir.
talked to Coach J over at Monroe College, and he told me they're interested in me coming up. So I came up and spoke to Coach J, and this was like right before school started. They pretty much had their team, but the first thing Coach J did when I walked in his office, and it's funny because my high school coach name was Charles Jackson. So now I'm going to college in Monroe, and his name is the same thing, Charles Jackson. So I was like, this might be one of those signs that it was meant for me to be here. You know what I mean? So I go in his office, and he pulls out the paper, and he's like, tell me how close you are to being this guy. And the guy that made All City and this, that, and third. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. Mentally, I'm there. Physically, I know I got some ways to work, but I'm willing to work. So whatever you need me to do in order to be a part of this team, I'm with it. You know what I mean? Like this is what opportunity that I want. I want to go to college. Obviously, I want to have success, and I want to be good. I want to get to that next level, and so whatever it is, this is what I'm doing. So I left this office. Pretty much that was it. Sign, seal, let's go. So that's pretty much how I got to Monroe.
And how much are you work? Okay, so at this point, are
hmm
you working on the new D Warner? Like, what are you doing different now that opposed to how you prepared before,
hmm
right?
So yeah. Now I don't know if my summer workout was much different compared to how it was like going to my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
But I had more people that I was taking advice from. Tim came back because Tim was going through his stuff. He transferred, left FIT. He's going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin now, so he's at the Division I level. So when he's coming back, he's giving me his lessons, the things that he learned in order to help me grow my game. I got other guys in the city that I'm training with that's also doing the same thing. So I wasn't big workout, but
Yeah.
because it wasn't consistent always across the board. But when I did, I had advice from a lot of different people, and so I was taking everything I was learning from this individual, that individual, and soaking it up like a sponge to where I felt like going into junior college, whatever position I was going to be playing, I was going to be prepared for it. When I got here to JUCO, because I was so slow working my way back, I was playing inside. So I'm a guy that's used to playing on the wing, perimeter. Now I'm in the post. And once again, that at first I was resistant. I was like, what the hell? I'm 6'3". What the fuck I'm playing inside in the post for? You know what I mean? But what he did with that, and I don't know if he did that intentionally, it gave me an opportunity to learn the game from a post perspective, from a
Different.
player's perspective inside to know, because I didn't know this game. And I think for me, that's what taught me the game. Because now I needed to really use my mind in order to make the plays that I used to be able to make so freely, So now ripping through from the high post area, scoring in a low post against bigger guys and squaring guys up, shot fake rip throughs, all of that stuff now is what I'm learning at the collegiate level that I didn't necessarily have in high school because, once again, in high school, I was just ripping and going,
Yeah.
or shooting or dunking. Now in college, I'm learning the in-between game. So now I'm going into my freshman year, I'm still trying to figure out how to adapt my game that I had in high school, but that wasn't working because I wasn't as fast. I wasn't as athletic. So now I got to totally commit to learn how to play inside.
Yeah.
That's what really started to change my game. Really,
Okay.
that first year going through playing inside now. So I'm starting games at the 4. I'm playing some games playing the 5. And I'm talking about I'm playing games at 5, playing against 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", but I'm still battling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when the toughness came out because that's that grit. Like, you got to be. Like, you 6'2", 6'3", playing against 6'8", you got to know how to defend that. You got to know how to score against that in order to stay on the floor. Your ass coming out.
Yep.
So I credit Monroe and Coach Jay for teaching me a lot, man, because that made me tougher. That made me more grittier, more grimy of a player,
Yeah. How'd you guys do your freshman year?
So we lost in the championship game in our region tournament. We were Division III junior college at that time, my freshman year. This was right after they were Division III national champions. So I'm coming right off the back of a national championship team. They had guys going Division I, and Mike Nurse from the Iowa State. You had my guy Virgil Smiley that ended up going to LIU. A few other guys that was on that team. and those dudes were tough. You know what I mean? They were tough. They were talented. So there was a guy that was left over, a couple of guys left over, but one of the guys that left over, my guy Ant Carey, who was from Harlem. So Ant Carey was the quiet swag. He didn't really talk too much. He just made plays. So we were counting on him a lot to be our scoring leader, and we had a lot of freshmen. So a lot of us were still young and dumb with a lot of understanding of knowing how to compete at that level in college. But one thing we did have, we had competitive spirit. So we competed with our sophomores. So we had a good balance of sophomores and freshmen, and those sophomores taught us a lot, but we were also putting ourselves in a situation where we were ready to play. So I struggled at first. I wanted to transfer the first couple of weeks of playing. You know what I mean? Like, because I was new to not being given an opportunity I felt like I earned. Because now it's like, well, I didn't really earn it at this level because now I'm starting over. I don't have my name. There ain't no name. Like, forget that name thing. Now you got to show what you could do at this level. Yep. And so, we struggled in the beginning, but picked it up towards the end, made it to the region championship game and lost to a better team flat out. We lost by 6, and we as freshmen, we sit there crying at the end of the game. And Coach Jay told us, simple, listen, that feeling that you have right now, be that one next year when it's time to get back to this chip. You guys are ready. Use that. Let that motivate you throughout the summer. So that's what we did. We locked in as a team at the end of that year. Our freshmen that were turning to sophomores, we locked ourselves in the gym, got bigger and stronger and better in the weight room and everything, and on court, and we were ready to go. And it was good for us to do that because then we made the transition from Division III in order to jump up to Division I. So now we're a Division I junior college team playing and trying to compete on a national scale now, So that was good for us because we felt like mentally we were ready for that. We had a good sophomore group now going into our second year, and we had some good talented freshmen, and and it really helped us out a lot. So we were prepared for that, and we had success that year. We won the region chip this time at the Division I level. So that was good for us, and I had success. I was all tournament team, and I had some. Once again, now the offers are starting to come in, but this time out, it's more D2s now. You had some D1 showing interest. Division I school out in Cali was hitting us up about me and stuff like that. But, I knew now I learned so much my first 2 years in college that I wasn't just going to a school just to chase a Division I. I didn't want to be that guy that go Division I just to be a role player. I felt like now I want to be an impact. I had that opportunity to be a guy that was a focal point at one point my sophomore year. But my freshman year, I was a role player, Yep. So I feel like I took that experience. My last 2 years in school, I want to be the guy that you rely on. I want to be the Ant Carey of this team. You know what I mean? Like a guy or Mike Nurse of this team. So I decided to go Division II. Not a bad choice at all for me, honestly. But I think the situation wasn't a good choice just because I went out there on a visit to go out there with my point guard that I played with in high school. I mean, that I played with in Monroe. And I was going out there just to take the visit. And when I got back, I guess it was said that I committed. So now all the schools that was on me and offered all fell back. So I was only stuck with that school. And, he came up. I went out to Slippery Rock in Pennsylvania. And they was a good school in the PSAC conference. And, they played Division I. They played Division II high-level schedule, played Division Is, good conference at Division II level. So, and a bunch of guys from New York was actually in that conference. So it wasn't a bad situation overall. But for me, I didn't necessarily have the school of my choice, So, but I made the most out of it when I got out there. I was like conference player of the week, couple of weeks out of the first month. So I felt like, okay, I'm making a name for myself. And then shit just hit the fan quick. We had a couple of transfers come in from Division I schools. And all of a sudden it went from diversity on the floor, spreading the ball to just get a ball of this player, get a ball of that player. And I'm like, I ain't come from New York to come up here for that. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be, like I said, I didn't want to be a role player. I wanted to be an impact on the team. I didn't have to be the lead scorer, but I wanted to be like one of those players that you counted on. And so once that happened, we were 3-4 games over 500 early in the season. We was like 6-2 or something like that. Once those guys transferred in, shit just went downhill. We only ended up winning 9 games on the year or something like that. So wow. I left. Yeah. I stuck it out as long as I could throughout that year. People say persevere through adversity, and I'm with that. I get all that, but I knew that situation was right for me.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I didn't have the family support out there like that, the friend connection, you know, like it's a rural part of Pennsylvania in a sense, party town, a predominantly white school like that. You had obviously minorities and stuff, but not a good population of it for me to feel like, okay, my social life outside of basketball is balancing what I'm not getting from the basketball athletic side of it. So that wasn't it for me. So I decided I want to transfer back. And so that's when I got with Dykeman, Team Dykeman, Sean Couch and Jim Couch.
Yes.
Now, mind you, these are guys that, once again, still family connections there because Jim Couch knows my dad really well. And, you know, I've always played against Dykeman when I was playing with the church, so they knew who I was like that. So, you know, now it's my turn to turn around and make a name for myself in the city playing with a different team. So, you know, I got with Team Dykeman, and now I was still trying to go Division I or Division II, but I only had 1 year left. So the reality of me getting a scholarship at that situation, at that point in time, wasn't really that high, wasn't really that real, but it could have happened, you know. So I wasn't going off the aspect that it's Division I or Division II a bust. I was just making sure that I had a good situation. And
Yes.
so, you know, Old Westbury contacted Sean Couch, and they came to the games. Coach Mike Tomlin, you know, he was there, and he tried to get me into the school. And, you know, I went through the process, visited the school, worked out up there. They loved me. I liked the situation, you know, but unfortunately my financial aid didn't go through in time. So that shit ain't work. And I didn't know, I couldn't understand it because I've never had no problem with my financial aid anywhere else, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, not sure, but it just didn't work out.
Okay.
So now I'm home. I got guys I'm working out with, trying to stay in shape. So I'm going through a whole year now. I'm using this red shirt year to kind of get my mind right to see if do I really want to play basketball at this point and finish up, or is it time for me to just get a job and stuff, you know, just go through, you know, figure some things out. And so my dad, so like I said, getting back to him real quick, you know, he had success. You know, he was this New York City guy, and he played at City College back in the 50s when they were like that, you know, when they were like the best team in the city, you know, and he was on that team, and he was the star player on that team. And so, you know, being that we live right down the block from City College, he was like, listen, why don't you just go back to City College to finish up your year academically? And so, you know, I was like, yeah, that makes sense because now I'm so close to graduating. Why not? Just,
Yeah.
you know, I'll figure some things out throughout that time. So I enrolled in school, and I guess, you know, some people heard that I was in the school. Coach Andy Stanfeld was the head coach at City College at that time. He heard from my guy Jay Wingate's dad, Larry Wingate, that I was in the school there, and so he found this way to find me right before I went into class, and he talked to me about joining the team, and I told him I'm interested, but, you know, it's funny because that beginning of that process, when I tried to reach out to them, it's
Yeah.
like the assistant coach didn't know who I was, so he kind of brushed me off. Like, I guess he thought I was, you know, just a guy that's trying to walk on or whatever. But I reached out to them because, once again, my dad saw them, and they told him that if, you know, your son doesn't do well at the other school, whatever it is, he always has a home here. So I reached out to them, just try to get involved with them to see where things were at. And the assistant coach kind of brushed me off like I was a nobody. So I was like, hey, this is funny as hell this is happening. You know what I mean? But and I told the head coach that, like, the year following, and he was like, damn, we could have had you a whole year earlier. But, you know, it worked out the way it did for a reason, you know. So I ended up joining the team at City College going into the 2002-2003 year, and they did a New York Times and Daily News did an article on me and my pops. But it's tough because, you know, right before school started, or around the time school started, you know, I lost my dad. You know, he passed away, and so, like, I was going to City College to kind of like have an opportunity to play in front of him. My last year, I was tributing my senior year to him,
Yep.
so he was going to be at the games. You know, it was kind of be a big thing. Warner back at City College playing, and his dad is here. So, you know, that's what it was about for me, giving back to him, because I know he put me in a great position to have these opportunities. So I wanted to attribute that name and give it back a better legacy on how things were left when he left City College, you know. So he passed away, and, you know, they did an article in Daily News, and, you know, I said Larry Wingate, he mentioned some good words, but I guess they interviewed him, and he left a good notion on my on the article. He said something like, when, you know, Dana's playing in the summertime against these Division I guys, dropping 30, blah blah blah, he'll come down down D3, average 50. so now it's like you got guys that is scrimmages gunning for me just off that article. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, I was like, okay, well, I mean, but I'm a competitor, so I was like, I don't give a fuck. Let's go.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But that was good because I felt like I wanted to make that type of name. I wanted to have that impact because I wanted this opportunity to be the man or be the guy that can come in and help a program do what they want to do, which is win. And
Yes.
so we had that, man. We started off slow, but picked things up, and we ended up winning the CUNY championship. I was named tournament MVP, and we unfortunately lost in the NCAA tournament the first round. But for us at that time, we were an undersized team. We was kind of playing small ball like that Golden State Warriors offense before it was popular, So, but it was good because we had that type of nucleus where it was only myself and our co-captain Ed Caceres, and we were the only seniors. Everybody else was kind of like freshmen and sophomores. And we led that young team through. So that was an accomplishment, and I
Yep.
felt good about that because I was like, well, I left a legacy, somewhere where I felt like, I had good opportunity at Monroe College to do well. The other school, the D2, I didn't. So now I'm getting an opportunity to do something at the D3 level. So I had a little taste of all divisions throughout my collegiate career, and so that was great for me in my experience. So that's how I finished my college career on a high note.
Obviously, like prior, and sorry for the loss of your dad, brother.
I appreciate that.
Prior to your dad passing away, right? You're
Hmm.
going into the school where he's basically a legend.
Right,
You know what I mean? What kind of
right.
pressure is that for a kid? It's like,
Hmm.
I know I can play at this level. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because
right,
this isn't gonna be a challenge. I've proved myself at higher levels. But it's
right,
not
right.
about basketball what I'm asking you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I know exactly
Like,
what you're asking. So it's funny that you say that. So I think he did a phenomenal job during my time growing up. So I didn't know how big my dad was within the New York community of basketball. And even
okay.
though I was going at a young age to award banquets and this, that, and third, and he had trophy cases of MVP trophies and all that stuff in the back of the house. I mean, I'm a little kid. I'm breaking the trophies, playing around and all that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not registering who he was and how significant of a person he was, but I'm seeing famous basketball players coming to the house in the living room, connecting with him, and once again, I'm just so oblivious to all this because I'm in my own world. So
Yeah.
he did a great job of sheltering me from that type of pressure. So when
Oh,
I had my chance to make my name, I made my name for myself. I started then because now the old heads are like, oh, you Ed Warner's son? Oh, wow, blah, blah, blah. Your dad was this, your dad was that. And I'm like, nah, I really didn't know. So that
guys.
just started to happen more and more and more. So by the time my senior year in college came, at that point, I made enough a name for myself in the city to where I was like, well, me going D3 is just a bigger a story as me coming in as my father's son, because now it's like guys expected me to be playing Division 1 to Division 2 at least,
Yeah.
So going Division 3, it was like, well, why are you going down there? Why are you playing down there? Because it still was a stigma like you shouldn't be down there. Well, for me personally, I'm a ball player. I'm a competitor.
Yep.
I don't give a damn what division I'm at. Like, I'm gonna make this my
Exactly.
Division 1. So I made that my North Carolina. I made that my Duke. Like, I took those practices every day serious, like I was competing to play at a higher level. Because at
Yeah.
the end of that time there, I knew I wanted to still play professionally.
Yep.
So I wasn't looking like being D3. That wasn't, nah, that my focus wasn't, I'm a Division 3 player. No, you are what you feel you are. I'm a competitor. So
Yeah.
that's what I was. So I didn't give a damn what division I was at that point. I was like, let's get it. So I didn't have no pressure, man, and I knew I was coming there because my father, their situation at City College at the time, they got caught up in the scandal, and his name was a little tarnished, the sense of how things were. So it was kind of like that dark light on the name and the school for years after, and
Okay.
my uncle Floyd Lane, who coached at George Washington, and he's not my blood uncle, but come on, like he was
Yeah.
there even before I was born. You know what I mean? So him and my dad, they played together at City College, and Floyd, Uncle Floyd was just as big as my father, in the city. So he coached there around the early '70s or late '70s, around that time, and did well and had some success. So he kind of like brought a little bit of that '50s team, that legacy that was tarnished back a little bit. So now it's like now it's okay. And my father, I guess he wanted to keep me away from all that stuff, but at that point, I'm older now. I can handle whatever is going to be thrown my way, whether or not it's going to be people in the stands heckling about bullshit that went through back down in the 50s. That stuff ain't matter to me. You know, I was strong enough mentally to handle all that stuff. So,
Yes, sir.
you know, I was prepared for that. So I thought it would be a great thing for me to throw a tribute to my dad, to come here and make sure that I have some success, and hopefully the team would be able to have success as well, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to win, go out on a high note. So that's what I was able to do that last year. Yep.
You're able to play college basketball in the role that you want to play, right? And you
I
finally
dreamt about it, Drew. But I dreamt it, bro. I had a dream. I was sitting out that year about being at a tournament away with a team in a different state. I dreamt it. I dreamt the whole scenario. Come back to when that actually happened during the season. I told my head coach, like, yo, I dreamt this already. I dreamt the whole trip that we had there already. Like, I had this a year before it even happened, a year before I even know that I was going to be playing at City College. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I knew was meant to happen like that, bro. You know?
Yeah. And then going the way it goes. You guys win. You
Yeah.
dedicate the season to your pops. You win the chip. You get the MVP. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? This is the
Yeah.
opportunity you were waiting for, and you
Absolutely.
proved you put me under the lights. I'm gonna perform. Just give me my shot and let me play
Right.
my game.
Right.
And you
Right.
brought a championship and an MVP. How
Yep.
gratifying was that?
Bro, after the game, because we lost to the team we played in the chip, we lost to twice in the season. You
Okay.
know, and they were the number one. Baruch was the number one team in the conference that year. They were like 20-3 or something like that. Only 3 losses on the year, and they played a really good team. They had a good size. I mean, they were legit. Their point guard was like 6'2", 6'3", my height. You know, so looking at them, you know, they were like the guys of that conference. But in my mind, I'm still the best player. I'm still holding that like, yo, I don't give a damn what record y'all have.
Yep.
We're going to find a way to get it done. And I'm going to do what I can to make sure that I do my part and everybody else is going to do their part. So that way now we're going to leave everything on the floor in order to get this dub. So we listen, before our tournament game started, we were at our women's games, and those guys from Baruch was up in the stands heckling down at our girls because our girls were playing their girls in the first round, and our girls lost. But as we were talking, you know, shit to each other, you know, I'm basically talking to their best player or one of their best players. I'm like, listen, man, do your job. Just meet us in the chip, bro. Just meet us in the chip. So like that was my goal. Like no matter what, I'm talking this talk like that. I got to back this up now, because now I'm putting the target on our back. Like, listen, if we fail, it's almost going to be embarrassing in a sense. So we went through that whole tournament with a focus that we didn't have through the whole year. You know, everybody was on the same page. Whether you was a freshman, sophomore, didn't matter. Everybody was playing like seniors because everybody wanted to win. You know what I mean? Like everybody.
A minute 30. A minute 30. I'm gonna log out, and then we log right back in.
Okay, sure.
All right.
All right.
So you can finish that.
All right.